going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute, I understand. My apologies, but what better way to come back to YouTube than with this video that I'm about to drop right now. I might have put it in the title, I might not have put it in the title. We'll see, but we have a new company that has jumped on board to support SERGMOTIVE Garage and help me achieve some changes and small upgrades I've wanted to do to the car. They reached out, they want to work together, and we're actually going to be helping you guys out as well. So if you stick around somewhere in this video, I got something for you guys. So without dragging this out for too long, the company that is working with us in this video today is MPC Motorsports. I'm sure a lot of you guys know who MPC is. If you don't know who MPC is, I'll drop their Instagram link somewhere right here. Go give them a follow and just comment one of their pictures. Let them know that you followed them, you found them because SERGMOTIVE sent you there. And what we're going to be installing on the RSX today is actually right here in front of me. So MPC again was kind enough to jump on board, hit me up, and they're saying, listen, we want to help you out with your car. We want to help you out with the project. So of course, I've mentioned this before, and if you guys have ordered from MPC, you can kind of already tell what's going to be in this box. But we're going to be installing this is what they consider silver. But if you were to put this in the light, it's pretty much polished, but they call this silver because it is a billet control arm, and they put a coating on it, so there's no corrosion or anything that wears on it. So this is going to last. This finish is going to last pretty much the life of this control arm, which can pretty much be longer than the life of your car because this is billet aluminum. But this is where we're going to be installing. I'm going to talk about this control arm in particular a little bit and why MPC is the way to go with right now. Why MPC? What makes the MPC control arm different than the control arms I'm running on my car right now, other than they're a different color? Two main reasons. I'm going to give you those two reasons. One, MPC's control arms are made out of high quality billet aluminum made here in the USA. I mean, I only want to support companies that are here in the USA, and I guess three reasons. Two is their customer support. I mean, they've been reaching out to me nonstop. Any questions I had, they responded very quickly. So shout out to you guys, MPC, again, for your customer support. Willing to help out with anything and willing to, if you have any issues, which I doubt you'll have any issues, if you order from them, they're always willing to help you out, work with you. And it's just a great company to be supporting because they pretty much support you as well. So that's one. Two is this bushing right here, right? Control arms I have on my car right now, it is this brand. I've heard a little bit about them, but I originally just bought them because they were red and they had a pretty decent design that I was looking for. But I can almost guarantee you the bushings on those control arms are just some, off-the-shelf polyurethane. If it's polyurethane bushing that they have in there, well, guess what? MPC actually uses energy suspension bushings. So they're using already a proven polyurethane bushing from a well-reputable company, putting it in their control arms. So you know whether you're racing the car, you're lowering the car, or you're just going to daily drive it. They're not just giving you a normal off-the-shelf bushing in here and just giving you a control arm that looks nice. The control arm looks nice, and they're giving you a high-quality bushing that, if installed correctly, which I'm going to show you guys in this video, it's going to last just as long as your control arm. This is why you go with MPC. And with every control arm order, they will actually give you an adapter for that. I think it's a 12 point, I can't remember off the top of my head, 16 millimeter bolt that Honda uses on their rear control arms. They will give you an adapter so you can put this on your bolt, and then I'm not sure what size this outer diameter is, but then you put a socket over this, and you don't have to buy the special tool to get those bolts off. So, I mean, MPC, thank you again for reaching out and supporting this channel. And if you guys like these control arms, or you're considering a new set of control arms, or you're considering some beauty washers for you EG, EK guys and DC guys, if you want new front forks for your coilovers, because they always get rusted out and they always look bad on those older Civics. They sell billet forks as well. They have a whole ton of products that you guys can go after and look. And if you put the code Sergio, I'm going to leave the code right here, you get 10% off your order. Go hit up MPC, follow their page, go to their website, go find something that I know you guys are looking for that you want to install on your car, because they have not just all the suspension, not just the beauty washers and the bolts, they even have accessories like VTEC solenoid covers, oil cap. Go check them out. We got to install something on this car right now, and I know that's why you hit that video. So I've already pretty much already did the first step, which is jacking the car up. You guys don't really need to see that. I'm going to show you the control arm setup now and how I'm going to go about taking this apart and how you would go about it if you were doing this on your RSX. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you've seen I have the red control arms installed. I think I've had these installed for about a year or two. I can't remember. And I have a beak spar. So we're going to start by removing the beak spar first, because it's going to give us more access to that 17 right there. So you see I have the Allen key already on top. It's going to be a 13mm on the bottom. We're going to remove the beak spar entirely, but the bracket is going to stay on it because it's still held down by the 17. So the gun, I held the trigger a little too long. It spun this whole one out. That's no big deal. I still have the other two holding on to it. We have our 17 loose, as you can tell. And once I hit the last bolt on this and start to loosen it, I noticed the whole wheel assembly started to drop, which meant it's putting a whole bunch of weight on these two bolts right now. So this is why we're going to remove this 17. So when you watch me remove this 17, you're going to see, you might see this whole assembly start to shift, and all the weight is just going to be taken off. I don't want any weight on these bolts, because as you can kind of see on how small this bolt is, it's got a little rust in there, but it's not a lot of bolt that's going through this, and that's going to be holding a lot of weight, especially because I left the wheel on. Normally you could take the wheel off, but you don't have to take the wheel off. I'd rather put all the weight on this bolt right here and then just use a pry bar and pry it down and have these loose. So that's how we're going to pretty much go about it. Always go after this one, so that way these, when you're pulling them out, you're not pulling the threads out with it, because it'd be a lot easier to pull the threads out of these. So I'm pretty sure you guys saw that once this bolt came out, this whole assembly just started to shift. All I did was pry it down to get it off the bushing, because it's just going to give it more clearance. And now, I mean, it's hard to do it, but with one hand, I can move this whole assembly, and the control arm is loose on this end right here. So these should come out pretty easily. They're not going to pull any threads out, and then we're going to pretty much install it the opposite way. Always start with these, and then we'll go in here next. I want to show you guys the control arm I just pulled off, specifically the bushing. With the way I'm going to show you to install them in this video, that is the proper way to install them, because even though these are cheaper bushings, after many launches on them, driving it on the street, and not abusing the car, but you guys have seen how the car launches, just all the flex that gets put to the rear end, there's not even a sign of wear on these bushings. I mean, usually you'll see some sort of cracking or any kind of distortion in the bushing after about 2 years. I mean, these have been installed for 2 years. There's no sign of even flex on them. The center pin is still where it's supposed to be. That hasn't shifted. The bushing is still in good shape, and that just goes to show you that with this way I'm going to show you to install control arms, it's pretty much the proper way. As you can see, hard launches on these bushings. and they're still good. So next thing, what I like to do always is I'm just going to get some sandpaper, or if you have a wire wheel, clean this surface. You want this as flat as possible. I'm going to go on the inside of here as well, make sure that's nice and clean and flat, and then we're going to install the new control arm. And a little tip that I always like to do that I put on my bushings that pretty much helps the bushings move easier when going to do your final torque. So we got our surface cleaned up, getting ready for our control arm. I cleaned the inside of the bolt holes in there, make sure that's all good. We have our new control arm ready to go. And what I'm going to be doing, and I did this on my last control arms, is actually putting some silicone paste on this front surface right here and on the back surface right here. Now what that's going to allow me to do is when we install this control arm, there we go. When we install this control arm, the bolt, it's going to be kind of how you see the other side is hanging. So when it's hanging like that, there's no weight on the control arm. When we drop the car, that's when the control arms go from sagging, and then they straighten out because now you have the weight of the car. Well, some people, what they'll do is they'll make the mistake of tightening the control arm when it's hanging like that. And what that does is bind the bushing up. So when you drop the car, the bushing is tight, and then it's actually like flexing to come straight. And over time, that's how your bushing cracks and breaks, because it was tightened in this or in this state where it's got some tension because the wheel is hanging. And then when the car is down is when it should be relaxed, but it's not relaxed anymore because it's just flexed this way. So, two things. The silicone paste will allow us to first slide it back into this post a lot easier. It's just going to give us some lube to slide up in easier, because once we tighten this first, it's going to be hard to force it back in. That's the first benefit of the silicone paste. The second benefit is when we drop the weight of the car down, it is going to slide easier when the weight comes down. So for when the weight transfer comes, it's going to slide like this. It's not going to even come close to binding anything, because the silicone paste again is going to act like a lubricant to slide a little easier. Then we can run it down, and our bushing has always been relaxed with the car, with the weight of the car down, and that's how it's going to prolong the life of this bushing for pretty much the life of the entire car. This is going to be the last control arm I ever install on this car. So I want to give you guys this quick comparison look. As you can see, the red control arm on the right obviously is sagging slightly more than our new MPC control arm. So that is kind of mimicking what I'm talking about, how when the car is in the air, the right control arm has got that droop or that sag. It's putting a lot of tension and pressure on the bushing. Our MPC control arm, we're not identical to how it would be on the floor where we have the bushing relaxed, but it just gives you a kind of a better visual to see. There is going to be a difference, and technically I could use the jack to jack the control arm up a little bit more to mimic the car being on the ground. But what I would rather do, and this is what we're going to do, is when we're done with both control arms, we're going to put blocks of wood underneath the tires and drop the car down so we can still get underneath it and torque everything with the actual weight of the vehicle on both control arms. But again, coming back to how I installed it, you saw I used the jack to help line up the bolt hole underneath for my final 17 bolt. with that silicone paste, you kind of saw the control arm. It just worked so much easier. It just slid around a lot easier, and this is why we use the silicone paste, just to pretty much help us. And make sure you do all this by hand. Do not run anything in with power tools. I just use power tools to loosen everything. When we go to install everything, I always do everything by hand. Our 3 bolts over here, technically we can torque those down because there's nothing that is going to flex. That's a fixed position for those bolts. This 17 right here, I ran it in until I got it snug, and then I backed it off like a quarter turn. That way it's still giving that bushing a little more play for when we drop it to flex and pretty much settle where it needs to with the vehicle's weight on the ground, and then we can torque it that way. So I'm just going to run through this last control arm, and then we're going to go through torque specs, and that's pretty much it. Before I install the second control arm in the car, I want to show you one final thing about why you should choose MPC over a lot of other control arms, just for the bushings alone. Like, I can't stress enough how great the bushings that they install on these control arms are than some other brands. So we've already talked that MPC uses energy suspension bushings, which is why they're so beefy and why they're going to really be good. Even if you have a track car, well, mostly if you have a track car, these are really going to benefit you, but they're great for street-driven vehicles and show cars. Now we look at the other bushings that I had from the other brand. Again, nothing is wrong with them, but they look like a more solid bushing, right? No, this is just a cover. This is the actual bushing that is inside. Again, no rips, no tears on the bushing. Bushing is in great shape because it was installed properly. But I mean, look at the comparison. Way more surface area with that bushing, a way bigger center pin, and this is just, it's almost like an OE. It's not. I'm sure it's not an OEM bushing, but it might be the same size, and they just put a cover on it to, I guess, mimic if it was using an aftermarket bushing. Go with MPC. These guys, they got the control arm game on lock right now. So we're pretty much at the end of the installation. I have the car on the wooden blocks right now. I've bounced the rear end a little bit to try to let it settle a little bit more. The car has been sitting for about 5 minutes to let a little more weight settle. I do have the 18K rear springs, so you're going to see the control arms. They are not completely horizontal, how you would normally want to see them flat like that. The rear springs kind of rake the car up a little bit, so it is raised a little bit. That's why it looks like that, but it is not sagging like it was before, and this is the relaxed state for this car, so we should be fine to torque them like that. So as you can see, they still have a little bit of angle on them, but they're a lot better. Not a lot better, they're not sagging like how they were. Now we're going to talk about torque specs. Our 3 outer bolts are going to be 95 foot-pounds, and then the one 17mm is going to be 43 foot-pounds. We're going to torque all that with the weight just like this. That way, once we put the car fully on the ground, we're all set to go. And that's pretty much it. This is the proper way to install your rear lower control arms. Here's one final look at our polished control arms. I just think it sets the car off way better. It complements the car a lot better than the red did. There is another upgrade I want to install, so I know MPC is going to help me out. I'm going to reach out to them. MPC also has a lower tie bar, and I believe they have a lower tie bar and a subframe brace for the RSX, for the whole rear. We might have to make a video on installing that as well, but that's going to have to be on the next one. I'm going to clean all my tools up, and let's just close this video out. Once again, major shout out to MPC Motorsports for jumping on with me, partnering with me, and hooking you guys up. Again, the code is Sergio. 10% off control arms, hardware, accessories. Go to their website, check out, pick something out that you want, use that code, and just deck your car out. And also, if you're looking for another set of control arms, or if you're looking to get into a set of control arms, go MPC. As you guys saw, the quality is top notch. Once you start dealing with the customer service, if you have to, you'll see they're going to take care of you. They treat you like they've known you forever. Go check them out. If you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned. We got a whole bunch of plans coming back for this car. I have a whole bunch of parts that I'm looking at right now that need to be installed. So stay tuned for all that, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Stay motivated and keep making those streets louder.